From Pacifica, this is Democracy Now!
Informants are the most dangerous individuals on the planet. If you don't monitor them, something can go wrong.
When you're dealing with informants, you're dealing with people who have been convicted of or threatened with conviction or found in the act of some kind of criminality. And there is everything in their interest to make sure that they do what the FBI wants.
Entrapment or foiling terror? In a months-long investigation, Democracy Now!'s Anjali Kamat and Jackie Suwin of Big Noise Films travel through Muslim communities in New York and New Jersey to track 3 cases. In all 3, Muslim men were arrested on terror charges. In all 3, no terrorist crime was actually committed. And all 3 cases relied heavily on hundreds of hours of surveillance recorded by a paid government informant. Today, a Democracy Now! Special investigation. All that and more coming up. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Afghan government and the Taliban have reportedly begun secret high-level talks over ending the Afghan war. According to the Washington Post, Taliban representatives have recently met with officials from the government of Afghan President Hamid Karzai. There are differing accounts of talk scope, but sources say Taliban negotiators are for the first time speaking on behalf of the Pakistan-based Taliban group Quetta and its leader, Mohammed Omar. Another Pakistani-based faction, the Haqqani group, is said to be excluded from the talks. The Karzai government, meanwhile, says it's begun closing down the operations of private military firms in Afghanistan. Karzai ordered the companies to disband by the end of the year in August. On Tuesday, an Interior Ministry official said the Afghan government is now enforcing the decree.
Based on the President's decree concerning the closing of private security companies, all measures were taken by the Interior Ministry and other respected security organizations, and now we've physically started the disarmament of private security companies all over the country.
The Afghan government says it's taken action against 8 companies so far, including Blackwater. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, militants have again set fire to a convoy of tankers carrying fuel for NATO troops in Afghanistan. Up to 8 tankers were set ablaze in the attack near the southwest Pakistani city of Quetta. It was at least the 4th such incident since Friday. Last week, the Pakistani government blocked a NATO supply route after a cross-border helicopter attack mistakenly killed 3 Pakistani troops. The man convicted for trying to set off a car bomb in Times Square has been sentenced to life in prison. Faisal Shahzad was sentenced in a Manhattan courtroom Tuesday after pleading guilty in June. Shahzad is a Pakistani-born U.S. citizen and former financial analyst who lived with his wife and 2 young children in Connecticut. He said he received explosives training from the Pakistani Taliban. The first civilian trial of a former Guantanamo prisoner is set to begin today in New York. Ahmed Gilani has pleaded not guilty on charges surrounding the 1998 embassy bombings in East Africa that killed 224 people. Gilani has previously admitted to supplying the attackers, but said he was unaware they intended to bomb the embassies. Gilani's attorneys say he was tortured at secret prisons before his transfer to Guantanamo in 2006. The United Nations says millions of people will be denied life-saving treatment after donors failed to meet the minimal fundraising level sought by the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. On Tuesday, UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon said the fund has raised over $11.5 billion short of its austerity-level fundraising target of $13 billion.
Today, we raised more than $11.5 billion for the Global Fund for Fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. This is more than we did the last time at the last replenishment conference. And it is enough to give millions of people living in fear a new lease on life.
The fund needed $13 billion to keep up with its current treatment of 3 million people with AIDS. It had sought $20 billion to increase that to 5 million. The Obama administration pledged $4 billion to the fund, $2 billion short of the amount sought by AIDS activists and some members of Congress. In a statement, the group Health Gap said it was profoundly disappointed in the U.S. pledge, adding, quote, "President Obama has found billions to bail out Wall Street and to continue wars. We urge him to find a way to do the same to save lives around the world." Hungary's declared a state of emergency in 3 counties after toxic sludge from a alumina plant flooded several towns. Over 35 million cubic feet of sludge leaked from the plant's reservoir, engulfing homes and roads. At least 4 people have been killed and 120 have been wounded. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said he's ordered a probe into the disaster.
We do not know of any sign which indicates that this disaster would have natural causes. And if a disaster has no natural causes, then it can be considered a disaster caused by people. Everyone in this country wants to know who is accountable for this tragedy and the property damage.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the UN peacekeeping force says it's arrested a rebel leader on suspicion of leading the raids that led to the mass rapes in eastern Congo earlier this year. Over 500 women, girls, and babies were raped when Rwandan and Congolese rebels stormed villages in July and August. It took 3 weeks for the UN to respond, even though the villages were just miles from a UN base. The suspect has been identified as Lieutenant Colonel Maeli of the Mai Mai militia. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is calling for a federal investigation into the improper approval of thousands of foreclosures by some of the nation's largest banks. Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, and Ally Financial have suspended foreclosures in 23 states after admitting to approving foreclosure affidavits and other documents without proper vetting. It's unknown how many homeowners lost their homes due to foreclosure fraud. Texas, meanwhile, has become the latest state to issue an industry-wide freeze on all foreclosures. The Texas Attorney General's office has also demanded lenders identify employees who wrongly approved foreclosures. Anti-war activists targeted in last month's FBI raids in Minneapolis and Chicago have announced they won't testify before a grand jury. On Tuesday, demonstrators gathered outside a federal building in Chicago where the grand jury is convening. Stephanie Weiner, whose home was targeted in the raid, said the activists would defy their subpoenas to appear.
We believe we have been targeted because of what we believe, what we say, who we know. The grand jury process is an attempt to violate the inalienable rights under the Constitution and international law to freedom of political speech, association, and the right to advocate for change. Those with grand jury dates for October 5th and those whose subpoenas are pending have declared that we intend to exercise our right not to participate in this fishing expedition.
And South Carolina Republican Senator Jim DeMint is under criticism for defending his 2004 comments that sexually active single women and gay men and lesbians should be barred from teaching. Speaking at a church rally last week, DeMint said, quote, "When I said those things, no one came to my defense, but everyone would come to me and whisper that I shouldn't back down. They don't want government purging their rights and their freedom to religion," he said. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Prosecutors and